Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Family Show. The Family Show is your show, the show where families come to be inspired, to be equipped with a view of getting transformed. Tonight, we have our 10th episode of the Family Show. Last week, we were looking at the burden of debt on families, and we agreed that debt has a very huge burden on families, the trap of debt, and that families that have a member or both members, the key members, the parents, trapped in debt, then they are carrying a very huge burden on their shoulders. And we examined the different areas of lives at a family level that get affected when either or both of the key members of a family are trapped in debt, right? And we say the trap of debt will affect the health of the family. The trap of debt will affect the ability of the family to provide security. So it will affect the security status of the family. And we broke down the various aspects of security that every family needs to be keen on, because once they get affected, then a lot of things begin to go wrong at the family level, right? And we examined quite a lot of things, and I've been receiving your messages on the same. And as I promised last week, that was just the beginning, because the conversation of money in families is a huge one. As I mentioned earlier, we will be bringing in bits and bits of the same. And just debt itself, the trap of debt, is also a huge conversation, because I've seen many of you asking, so how do families get trapped in debt? And those were also questions that came up even last week. And I promise that in the days to come, I will also come back with sessions on how families get trapped in it, with sessions on how to diagnose as a family and get to tell whether you are trapped in debt or not, with sessions on how to begin to break free from that particular trap as a family. Because if we leave it at the introduction stage, then we will not have done justice to that conversation. The only thing is that we will not be doing them in immediate succession. We will be skipping, bringing in different conversations, but we will be able to cover everything with regard to the conversation of debt on families, and also the conversation of money entirely on families. A couple of weeks back, we hosted our guest tonight, that is Faith Kabiru, and she did a wonderful job introducing, or rather dealing with the first part of the conversation that we called the parent in the parenting journey. And we were trying to tell ourselves that every time we talk about parenting, we rush to look at the children. And so where are we leaving the parent? What should be happening to the parent? What exactly should we be rescuing inside a parent? And she gave a wonderful conversation. She gave a view of a parent as a moulder. And she was asking the question, what is the exact shape of a parent? How should a parent be looking like? And we looked at three major things that would contribute to that particular shape. And she talked about the belief system of a parent. She talked about the attitude of a parent. And she also talked about the capacity of a parent. And she promised to be back. And you even wrote and asked, when shall we be having the second part? And last week I mentioned that on the 12th, which is tonight, we will be handling the second part. I don't know whether this is going to be the last part, but this could just be a second part. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, good people of God, allow me to welcome our guest tonight, Madam Faith Kabiru. Take it away in the interest of time so that we can listen to her, learn from her, ask questions, and so that we can begin to be inspired together as families, to be equipped together as families, and eventually to be transformed together as parents. As usual, if you're visiting us for the first time, take a moment to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out every time we are hosting this show, or every time we have a new video upload coming. Be sure to also send your question on the comment section, There's also a number that will be scrolling. You can also inbox your question in case you do not want it to go public on the comment section. Faith, please take it away from where you left it.
Thank you very much, Roy, and thank you for bringing us up to speed. We were looking at the first part of the parent in the parenting journey. Yeah, and we realized that the parenting journey, for different parents, it will begin at different. Roy, I don't know whether you can hear me or you.
Yes, yes, you are loud and clear.
Thank you very much, Roy. And so I was saying, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. In our last session, we were able to introduce the parent in the parenting journey, because we agreed that the parenting journey, different parents could be at different levels in the parenting journey. Some of us could be at the conception stage. Some of us could even be parenting our grandchildren. And we looked at the first part where we were asking the first role of the parent in the parenting journey as a moulder, and we used the analogy of a concrete model, and we said that when you put concrete in a model, it is going to take the shape of the model that you used. And so we described the parent as a moulder. And today we are looking at the second part where we are looking at the parent as a co-creator. And I want to borrow heavily from the Christian perspective, where Christians we believe, and when we read even from the Bible, we realize that the Lord created from nothing. And so to say, he created ex nihilo. And when he was creating, he was actually calling forth. And I keep on asking myself, if you're a parent and you get into your house, for example, when you got into your house this evening and you called out, who did you call out? You probably called someone that is already existing in that house. Could have been your child, could have been the caregiver, or someone that is already living within that house. And so in the creation story, the Lord called forth what was already existing. And when he called forth, whatever he called forth became. And then from there, he gave us the mandate that we would go ahead and multiply and take dominion. Now, as parents, the Lord gave us a very, very rare privilege where, apart from the creation of Adam and Eve, then from there, the creation process was given to us, so that then we became co-creators. And at conception, a baby is created. And when that baby is created, again, just as Adam was given the opportunity to name, we are also given an opportunity to name. And so, in addition to the parent being a molder, the second very important role of a parent is that the parent is a co-creator. And if then the parent is a co-creator, it then means that on the hands of the parent lies the destiny of our children. When children are born, psychologists say that, or some psychologists believe that a child comes as a blank slate, what we call tabula rasa. So that they come in as a blank slate. And when they come in as a blank slate, then we have an opportunity to write. Of course, there is the other side of the coin where we say, no, they don't really come as a blank slate, because they come, there's a genetic component that determines then who they are going to become. Now, regardless of how you look at it, when a child comes into your hands at that early stage, you have an opportunity to create what you want from them. Now, Roy, I was amazed when I was reading the story of Venus Williams and Serena Williams. A very interesting story. A father that was seated And as he was seated watching a game, and he realizes that people are actually making economic sense of sports. And being a Black American, he realized that my children have an opportunity to make an economic sense out of a game, and the game called tennis. And he was so determined that out of his two children, the youngest of his two children, that is Venus and Williams, Venus and Serena, he was going to create champions out of them. These were children that were below 4 years of age. And I dare say, children that did not even have an exposure of what kind of games are out there. But the father, Richard, was so determined that one of the ways that his children were going to break out of poverty was actually going to be through sport. And he took CDs and he started watching the tennis game, and he learned it himself so that he could be able to teach his children. And of course, today we know that Serena and Venus are champions in the game. But it took a father to create a champion out of them. And so this evening, I am asking myself as a parent, when a child is in my hands, and when the Lord has placed that child in my hands, who do I create out of that child? In fact, I think, Roy, we can actually ask, what do I create out of that child? Because out of that child, I can call forth anything. I can call forth a champion, but I can also call forth an idiot. Let me give you a short story so that you can understand what I'm saying as we begin as a parent, as a co-creator. A story is told of a primary school teacher. And this primary school teacher had many children in class, and sometimes you realize that we could have people sharing a name. And in this class, there were two boys that were actually sharing a name. Both of them were called Peter. But one of them was such a good boy that the teacher called him the good Peter. The other one was such a bully that everyone called him the bad Peter. So in the class, there was the bad Peter and there was the good Peter. And guess what happened? One day, as the teacher was writing these small notes to the parents at the end of the week, say on a Friday, just giving a weekly report of the children, the teacher wrote a note to the mother of the good Peter. And he wrote and said, "Dear mom, I wish to let you know that Peter has been such a good boy. He has been the envy of many in the class. Actually, looking at his work this week, we are very proud of him and we are sure that his destiny is bright." But as the teacher was packing the notes, instead of putting that note in the bag of the bad Peter, of the good Peter, she actually put that note in the bag of the bad Peter. But it is written, "Dear mom, your son Peter." So really, it is not specifying whether it's a good or the bad Peter. And the boy went home and gave the note to the mother. And when this boy gave the note to the mother read the note aloud. And as she read this note, she said, "Peter, I cannot believe you've always been the bad Peter. But this week, the teacher says you've been such a good boy, that you've been well behaved. You have done your work. And the teacher is so proud of you. And actually, the teacher thinks that your destiny is so bright." And the following morning, because the mother to the bad Peter was so excited about the new development, decided to accompany the son to school. And they went carrying the note and went to the teacher and said, "Oh, teacher, this is so amazing. Thank you for this report you gave about Peter. I am so happy to learn that Peter has improved greatly." Of course, at that point, the teacher was a bit embarrassed. The teacher was, could not say, "Oh, sorry, this was not, this note was not meant for this, for the bad boy. It was meant for the good boy." And so the teacher just strode along, and the teacher said, "Oh, thank you. Yes, actually, your boy has improved." And it is actually said that from that day, the bad Peter changed his attitude towards the teacher, changed his attitude towards his peers, changed his attitude towards studies. And finally, he became an equally good Peter. A small note written by a class teacher changed the destiny of that child. And so this evening, when we talk about a parent as a co-creator, Roy, what I'm saying is that on our hands, the Lord has placed children, and those children, we have a responsibility of calling forth their destiny. We have a responsibility of calling forth what the Lord intended them to be. And I will tell you this, that it is very interesting that in every child, there's a rich deposit that the Lord put in every child. Because there is no child, Roy, that came in as an accident. Every child that was born to answer to a certain agenda, was actually born to answer to a certain assignment. And when the Lord was looking around to see what parent could be entrusted with such a resource, he saw you, parent. He saw you are the best who could be able to stir up this gift in this child, and therefore trusted you with that child. And because the Lord trusted you with that child, because the Lord trusted me with that child, then I have a responsibility of constantly asking, what is this deposit that is in the life of my child? What is this talent that is in the life of my child? What is this gifting? What is this about their temperament? What is this about their personality that answers to the agenda for which they were created, that answers to the assignment for which they were created? So that then I will constantly call forth. Roy, it is very interesting that sometimes children will not exhibit some of those deposits. Some of them will be the bad Peter. Some of them will actually be so rebellious that we will even wonder whether there is any rich deposit in them. But there is no child that came into this world that is not richly endowed with what it takes for them to answer to their agenda. It's my responsibility as a parent to look at my child and ask myself, what is this that the Lord has put in them? What can I do about it so that then they are able to occupy spheres of influence, and when they occupy spheres of influence, they do not disappoint. One of the most interesting things is that unfortunately, the child does not come with a manual. And because a child does not come with a manual, then sometimes when we are not intentional and deliberate, then we get to gamble with those children. But in the real sense, if we were intentional, if we were deliberate, then you will realize that we will be more keen in looking inside, looking more into the child and asking, what is this that is in this child that we can be able to stir up? And I want to give a proposal of how this journey would look like when we are when we are co-creators. I just want to give a small proposal of how this journey would look like. Number one, as a parent, it is important for you to know that the child that is in your hands, that has come into your hands biologically, that has come into your hands by adoption, that has come into your hands by foster care, or even by kinship, or whichever way that child has come into your hands. It is important for you to know that they would not have been in better hands than your hands. That is the first step. To know that they would not have been in better hands than you. You are the best placed as a parent. When the Lord was looking around, who would be the best custodian for this child? The Lord saw you. When the Lord was looking around, who he can trust with this child, he saw you. And so, as a parent, I want to encourage you that you are the best parent that ever existed for the child that is in your hands. Even if you don't look like, even if you do not believe it, even if sometimes you doubt it, the truth is that you are the best parent that would have ever existed for the child that is in your hands. So first of all, believe that. So that then your attitude is right. Remember in our last session on the parent, in the parenting process, we said one of the things that determines your shape is the attitude. So that your attitude is right. So that when you look at that child that is in your hands, then you actually look at them with a smile and you're like, wow, I cannot believe that the Lord can trust me this much. I cannot believe that when the Lord was looking around, that he could only see me as the person that could actually raise this child to their destiny. So you are the best parent that ever existed for that child. That is the first step in this journey. In you becoming a co-creator, you knowing that you are the best parent. Number two, it is important for you as a parent to know that the child in your hands, not the neighbors, not your sisters, not your brothers, not any other child that is out there, the child that is in your hands is the best child in your hands. The first one I said, you are the best parent for that child. The second one, I want you to know that that child is the best child in your hands. Note this, is the best child in your hands. You will not have gotten, there's no other child that would have excelled, that would have thrived better than the child in your hands. So that then, I am the best parent that ever existed for this child, and this is the best child that the Lord placed in my hands. Now, when those two meet, a parent that feels they are the best parent and a parent that feels that they have the best children, then we have the best, we probably have the highest level of success here. Because the parent is not scared, is not timid, is ready for the journey because they feel that they are the best placed as parents. And again, they feel that the children in their hands are the best. However they are, even if they are going through a crisis, they feel this is the best child that the Lord put in my hands. Again, we are proceeding in this journey, a parent as a co-creator. Now, the third thing that is very important for you as a parent is for you to know that that child is not empty. That child is not empty. That child has a rich deposit. It may not look like, they may be going through a storm and they don't look like they have any deposit in them, but they have a rich deposit in them. This rich deposit could be in form of a talent. This rich deposit could be in form of a skill. This rich deposit could be in form of giftings. Some of them, it is the intellectual gifting. Some of them could be a special ability. Some of these giftings could actually be an exceptional ability that your child has. And some of them, now listen to this, and some of them could be an ordinary ability, but which on the right platform becomes extraordinary ability. And so the only thing they are looking for is actually the right platform for that ordinary ability to translate into extraordinary ability. And so recognize that your child has a rich deposit. What is this? What is this that the Lord has deposited in your child? Now, Roy, it will not take a minute. It will not take a hit and run relationship with our children for me to actually be able to establish the kind of deposit the Lord has put. And not, I'm using the word deposit. It means that it is a journey of scooping, because deposits are deep-seated. Deposits are deep-seated. And so I am interacting with this child every day. I am interacting with them in the ordinary platforms. Please note this. In the ordinary platforms, I am interacting with them. And as I interact with them in the ordinary platforms, then I get to realize this exceptional ability. I realize this talent. I realize this skill. It may not take a day. It could be interacting with them until they are teens. And I realize that this voice which I could have taken for granted is actually a voice that can actually become musical. Probably this artistic skill that I probably thought it was just something small is actually a skill that will lead them to their destiny. Probably it is academic, just their intellectual ability, that by the time they get to they do their KCPE. I realize, come to think of it, as much as I thought that this was just ordinary, this child has actually topped in their class. This child has actually been able to score an A, and they have an exceptional intellectual ability. And so, that thing, as I was saying, recognize that your child has a rich deposit. And then from there, I get to the fourth one. And the fourth one, which I want to bring to your attention, is that once I realize that my child has a rich deposit, then I begin a daily walk with them. Not what I'm saying, Roy. A daily walk with them. Parenting, unlike a teacher, for example, and I have a lot of respect for teachers, but on 15th, children are closing school. The teachers will take a break for a week. And if it was an ordinary year, they probably would have taken a break for 3 weeks. Sometimes they would even take a break for 10 weeks. But parenting, we don't take a break. It is 24/7. It is continuous. That is why the fourth step is that for me as a co-creator, I must walk with my child in their daily activities. Let me just share this example, Roy, again, so that we can be able to understand what I'm saying. I want you to think about the 37th president of the US, Richard Nixon. And I want to tell you a little story about Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon grew up as an ordinary child, but an ordinary child on a platform that was extraordinary. The mother, Hannah Nixon, was raising Richard Nixon together with other children. And as Hannah Nixon was raising little Nixon together with other children, in her daily chores, the daily chores would mean serving a cup of tea to Richard Nixon and the siblings, could mean taking him to the shower, could mean taking him to the bus stop, could mean packing his snacks, could mean washing clothes together, could mean cleaning the compound together. In the daily chores, Richard Nixon, as a little boy, constantly had a daily interaction with the mother who believed in the great destiny of Richard Nixon. And so Hannah Nixon would constantly look at Richard Nixon on the face and would tell Richard Nixon, Richard, one day you will be a great man in this nation. When you finally become a great man in this nation, do not forget the nation of Israel. As she was serving a cup of tea, as she was cleaning Richard Nixon, she would constantly remind him, one day you will be a great man in this nation. When you finally become a great man in this nation, do not forget the nation of Israel. In essence, what was Hannah Nixon doing? Hannah Nixon was creating a possible future for Richard Nixon, so that as he worked in his daily activities, as they did their daily chores, the possible future did not become elusive for Richard Nixon. The mother constantly painted that picture. One day, you will be a great man in this nation. When you finally become a great man in this nation, do not forget the nation of Israel. And Hannah Nixon continued. And finally, Richard Nixon became the 37th president of the US. He could be remembered for many things. Probably as the only president to resign. Probably he could be remembered because of the Watergate scandal. He could be remembered for many things. But if you want to know the significance of the words of Hannah Nixon as she was raising Richard Nixon, then you will need to visit the nation of Israel on their holiest day, which is the Yom Kippur Day. And they cannot celebrate their holiest day in the nation of Israel without talking about Richard Nixon. Why? Because on October 6, 1973, when the nation of Israel was attacked by 7 nations, Richard Nixon was the president of the US. And at that point, Golda Meir was the prime minister of Israel. And when she realized that she had been attacked, she gave Richard Nixon a 3 a.m. call and said, my president, if you do nothing about the nation of Israel, we are going to go extinct. If you do nothing about the nation of Israel, we are going to be eliminated from the face of the earth. And Richard Nixon responded in such a rapid way. And later, when Richard Nixon was asked, why did you respond in such a rapid way? Why is it that you responded so fast? Richard Nixon said, I did not hear the words of Golda Meir. I heard the words of my mother, that when you become a great man in this nation, do not forget the nation of Israel. And that is why, Roy, I'm saying the 4th step in becoming co-creators, it is engaging our children in their daily lives. Do not take any opportunity as so basic. Do not take any platform that you have with your children as so insignificant. Take advantage of that opportunity and call forth. Paint the kind of picture you'd want to see in your children. As you do works with them, as you do homeworks with them, paint that picture. I always ask myself, can you imagine if you constantly reminded your children of their capacities more than their weaknesses, so that we magnify more of their capacity and we magnify more of what they can be than what they cannot be, so that then constantly what is going to preoccupy their mind is actually what what is the best future for them. And so, parents as co-creators, we cannot assume the ordinary platforms, because the ordinary platforms transform ordinary skills into extraordinary skills. Ordinary platforms transform an ordinary child into a great child who will occupy the sphere of influence and influence in a way that you never thought, like Richard Nixon did. And then from there, after you have engaged your children in the daily lifestyle, I also want to say that do not forget, and I mentioned this and I want to mention it again, because this is related to the parent as a moulder. Do not forget to grow your capacity as a parent, so that then as your child grows step by step, as your child develops step by step, as the different skills, as the different abilities and talents get exposed, that you have the capacity to help your child even do more introspection and even discover more about their talents. This would only happen if then the parent is growing their capacity. And then from there, equally build the capacity of your child. Remember that gifts, talents, abilities, skills, if they are not well managed, they can actually kill a child. There are children that are so gifted that their gifts that were not well managed, and finally, guess what happened? The gift became their own undoing. And so it is my responsibility as a parent to help my child manage those giftings, manage those talents, manage the skills and abilities. Because if I don't help my child manage that, then the very gift, the very blessing, then becomes a curse to that child. Think about girls that beautiful girls that as they were growing up, everyone looked at them and said, what a beauty. But the same beauty, because it was not well managed, that the girls became promiscuous, or they were taken advantage of, and the very beauty that would have taken them places then became a curse. Think about these people that were intelligent, but whose intellectual gift was not well managed, that they became so proud and arrogant that they even never completed the university. Think about the same, that probably they were not given the correct guidance. They were not helped to manage their intellectual capacity. And there was this level of emptiness. They got into drugs and now they are in rehabs. And so it is important that we help our children, because we are co-creators. We help our children be able to manage their own capacities. As we do that, then let us also expose them to the right platforms. Expose them to the right platforms. In the traditional African society, there was something that was called a apprenticeship. And apprenticeship, this is where you discovered a skill, and most of them were artisan skills. You realized that this child had a skill, you placed them under someone that was already doing well, and then from there the child learned the art. I'm told that today, even in countries like Nigeria, they still try to put people under a apprenticeship so that they can learn a trade. And I'm asking myself as a parent, if I realize that my child has a certain gifting, if I realize that this is the path of my child, I'm asking myself, is it possible for me as a parent to explore further? And when I talk about explore further, is even explore the type of schools that probably would be of value for my child, so that I am not just choosing a school because of the name, because it's a national school, but I'm choosing the school because it has something to deliver to my child. What about even choosing the social investment, choosing people that I can invest in their lives? What about even choosing some of the environment that I can invest in their lives? I'm thinking about a child that is so caring, that is so passionate about taking care of the sick people, that I can tell this child will end up as a nurse or as a doctor. What about going out and looking out for opportunities in even a clinic or a hospital, so that the child is already exposed to a hospital setting before they can even choose a career, so that it is not just by gut feeling, that by the time they are done, that we are able to create that little spark, that little light in them. We are able to stir it up, so that at the end of the day, that by the time that child is deciding, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, they have already been exposed to a hospital setting, and they probably want to, they probably have an idea of whether that is exactly what they want to do. What are those platforms that are out there? Could they be career talks? Could they even be relatives that are already excelling in those careers, that we can invest in the lives of our children, so that then at the end of the day, we are able to create that which the Lord intended them to be, because we are co-creators. We have a responsibility of creating this destiny for our children, and it is on our hands that we can make or break our children. Remember the last time I said, I am not ignorant, I am not naive, that there are other agents of socialization. But who allows the other agents of socialization? For example, the school is an agent of socialization, but who exposed this child to that school? I know the TV, I know the media, internet, but again, who guided them? Who guided them as they used the TV? Who guided them as they used the internet? So that then we can be able to say that the parent is a gate. The parent has the ability to create that possible future by being very intentional, again, as we've always said, Roy, by being intentional and deliberate, and knowing that they are co-creators with God. And because they are co-creators with God, then I must be very, very deliberate in coming up, so to say, with a strategy. And all these steps I was giving you, it's just to build up that strategy to be able to create the possible future you see for your child, and a possible good future. It is not just a future that you have in your head, but you are collaborating with the child. You're looking at the deposits inside the child and just shaping them shaping them, becoming this rail guard, shaping them so that they become everything that God intended them to be. Roy, I think I want to give it back to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Faith, for those very many words of wisdom. Time is so unfair. A time when things have started flowing the way they are flowing, and time begins to look at us with those eyes. I already have a string of questions from our audience. I think I will be asking in twos, just see how many of them will be able to handle within the remaining time. There is a question here that says, my spouse has constantly referred to our son as useless for a long time. Unfortunately, he is not here to listen to this now. I'm hoping he will in future. But how do I get him to change? That is the first one. And then there is also this one. What happens to a parent who feels like a failure because their child, after becoming a teenager, became rebellious, doesn't listen, or want anything to do with them, or are at the verge of giving up? So what happens to that parent who feels like a failure because their teenagers have become runaway teenagers? Maybe you can handle those two first.
I can handle those two and then I can go on. And so I want to begin with the first one. And I want to say thank you very much for asking this question. I'm sure that probably you do not even just be asking for yourself, but for many parents that are out there. So thank you very much for being bold. And I want to tell you that it is not too late. One of the things that, Roy, I encourage parents is to realize that we have an opportunity to, one, help our children learn, two, help our children unlearn, three, help our children relearn. And if you'd allow me, Roy, to say this, that this parent could go to my YouTube channel and listen to these 3 videos that I recorded on learning, unlearning, and relearning. And this is what I want to say. The parent that has asked this question. The child has already learned from your spouse in the way the spouse talks to them. But it is not too late for you to help them unlearn. I want to tell you that it is going to be an uphill task, but it is possible. Roy, allow me to share this. When I was growing up, I was a stammerer and a very serious stammerer. And one of the teachers, who a significant person in my life, kept on saying they don't think there's anything that would come out of me. But on the other side, my father kept on speaking life into me over and over again. And finally, the voice of my father certainly became louder than that of the teacher. And this is what I want to tell the spouse that is asking that question, that it is possible for you to constantly help your son unlearn. Remind him that he is not useless. Look at him straight in the eye and tell him he is not useless. And once you tell him that, give him responsibilities. Once he has completed that responsibility, reaffirm to him and tell him, I told you, you're not useless. I told you, look at this. You have been able to do this. Continue helping your child unlearn the bad vibe they have had. But I also want to invite you to be able to begin a conversation with your spouse. I will tell you, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Sometimes your spouse could be going through such negative energy, probably from their place of work, probably from their own expectation, that they have such negative energy. Begin a conversation by telling them you as a father or you as a mother are not useless. You cannot have brought forth a useless child. It is not possible. Start reaffirming them. Start reaffirming them. Tell them, the way I look at you, you are not useless. You cannot have brought forth a useless child. And because I know you cannot have brought forth a useless child, you need to undo those words, because this is your very own child. You yourself are not useless. And I believe it 100% you're not. And I know that you cannot have brought forth a useless child. Start reaffirming your spouse again, because at the end of the day, out of the fullness of our heart, our mouth speaketh. Probably it is a negative energy in your spouse that sometimes he finds himself speaking. Start reaching out to your spouse, help him unlearn as well that there's no child that is useless. There's no child that is useless at all. And I want to combine that with a parent that is feeling like they are not the best parent because the child has got to the teen years and they have become rebellious. And I want you to listen to me, the parent that has said this. The best parent is not the parent with the best children. The best parent is a parent that has been able to help her or his children negotiate the storms of life. If you help them negotiate the storms of life, you're the best parent. The best parent is not the one that has, that has a perfect children. And as I said last time, emotions, do not trust them. It could be emotions of self-doubt. Do not trust them, because sometimes, as I said earlier, the mind plays tricks on you and tells you you're not getting it right. But James Dobson gives an example of a hot air balloons, and he says we bring up our children so well, but when they get to the teen years, they go up like hot air balloon, exploration beyond the boundaries so that they look rebellious. If you brought them up well, relax, they will get a safe landing. Just walk with your child, become a real guard, and remember, the best parent is not the one with the best child, it is the one that has helped their children negotiate the storms of this life. Thank you, Roy.
Wow. That has gotten home. Very powerful words there. Let's move to the next set. There are some who've become so tired that the positive words they used to talk about their children ended. And now all they see are the negatives, and that's what comes forth from their mouths. I think part of that you have handled. So what now is the question. I think you've also just mentioned in passing, maybe you'll reiterate a point or two. And the second one, what of some mothers who've taken frustrations they are going through with their spouses to their children? Because some feel it's the children that are still keeping them there. Otherwise, they would have left long time ago, or the cause of their problems. So say something to these two people.
Yeah, you started seeing something positive, then got tired, and now all you're seeing is negative. Remember, parenting is a journey. Long after your children are grown up, you will still be a parent. We don't have ex-parents, like the way you'd separate with your spouse and then you say, this is my ex-husband, this is my ex-wife. We don't have ex-parents. You're going to parent this child for a lifetime. And remember, you're not just raising a child. You are not just raising a child for a season. You're raising a child in different seasons of their life. And in different seasons of their life, your child is going through is actually going to go through different experiences. Sometimes some of them are going to be beautiful experiences, some of them are going to be painful experiences. Just be there as the mother and remember that their destiny is secure in the Lord, and continue looking at their destiny and continue speaking into their destiny and continue seeing the rich deposit. Is it possible that sometimes you will get tired? Yes, sometimes you will get tired because you're a human being. But remember, when you get tired, this is your child. It can never be an ex-child. Hang on there. Continue speaking life into this child. Once in a while, when you need debriefing, once in a while when you need support, it is okay to go for coaching. It is okay to go for counseling. It's okay to go for debriefing and say, this is what I feel, so that then you can be helped put things again in focus. Again, as a parent, just hang on there. When you need help, scream, and please go for that help. The second one, it is this mother that is feeling frustrated, is in this marriage because of the children, and so sometimes vents out to the children. And I want to tell you this: marriage and family are two different things. Marriage is between a husband and a wife, and out of a marriage, the Lord blesses the family with children through whichever form, and then the children come, and then now we have the family. The marriage institution has no children. The marriage institution is between a husband and a wife. So the relationship here is husband and a wife. But when the children come, then now we have the nuclear family, we have extended family and all that. And I want to say this, the same thing that I have said. Even if my marriage with my husband did not work, and we separated and became exes, with my children will never become ex-parents. We will continue to be parents. And I want to talk to this mother and say, please seek help on your marriage, on the marriage institution. Seek help. Because when we have a functional marriage, then the family environment becomes easier. When we have a dysfunctional marriage, the family environment becomes toxic. Why? Because when we have a father and a mother that are dysfunctional, where the marriage institution is dysfunctional, then they spill over in the way we raise our children. So I want to ask this mother that seek help. And I want to tell you that the strongest people seek help. It is not the weaklings that seek help. It is the strong people that seek help. Go out there, look for a marriage counselor. Look for a counselor and sit down and talk about your marital issues. Because unless that is sorted out, Roy, we will still have spillover in the way we raise our children. But the bottom line is, your children will never be your ex. Do not treat them. They will be your children till the end of the parenting journey. Sort out your marriage so that you are an effective parent. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you so much, Faith. Your children will never be your ex-children. If there is one thing we must get out of this, even if we were to forget every other thing that we've said tonight, we must never forget that our children can never become our ex-children. Wow. I'm just looking at the time, and I'm realizing however much we would love to look at as many of these questions as possible, time is not allowing us. Please keep sending your questions to the inbox, the number that has been scrolling on the screen. I will give them attention, and those that need to be sent to Faith, she's always ready to look at them and give us attention. Be sure to look for that video that she mentioned on her YouTube channel. Let me just pin her YouTube channel for us to be able to see. Fantastic. So that is her YouTube channel. Look for it. Listening to the videos that are there. Subscribe so that you also do not miss out when she uploads a new video. Faith, I'm certain that my viewers will look for you again, will ask for you again. So when you hear me reach out and say, hey, we need to talk again about this or the other thing, please be available so that we can continue to take these conversations to the next level. Touching a family at a time, touching a parent at a time, touching a child at a time, touching a society at a time. So I just want to thank you so much, Faith, for finding time to be with us tonight and sharing those very powerful words that you have shared with us. And I'm sure that from this time onwards, parents now know that they have a role as co-creators with God to call out the fine deposits that are in their children, because no child came without these deposits. So I just want to thank you once again. When we call on you to come back, please be there for us. The questions, I'm sure, as they'll be coming, I will forward to you, those that need your attention. And to our viewers, thank you so much for finding time to be with us tonight. May God bless you so much, even for believing that we need to be learning about these things as families, believing that families can actually have chance to be inspired, to be equipped, and eventually to be transformed from where we are standing today to where we desire to be standing. And I'm sure that God will be blessing us and God will be uplifting us as families into the next horizons that are there for us. So thank you so much. And until we meet again next week, same place, same time, may God bless you. May God keep you safe. It is bye and good night.